What up, what up, what up? What's going on? Welcome to my third video of Kids Moment. Part 3. This is when I share a story about, just being a father. A moment with my kids, me being a father. In part 1, I talked about, my daughter, Tanavia, teaching me about, silence, quietness, peace. On the second one, I talked about my son, me ministering to him about not conforming, to the world. And this third one, I will be talking about, my baby girl. Well, I'll be sharing a story with my baby girl, Alasia, who is the one that's on the thumbnail. Like I said, she's the youngest or whatever. And in this story, this is further on. This is after Leon. So this one I know for sure. This was in 2018. So that means she was 6 years old in this story. All right, so at this time, I was led to go back to church. I was out of church and just learning and spending time with God for about 3 or 4 years. About 4 years, I believe. 3 or 4 years, one of them. But I was feeling God calling me to go to a church, and so I picked out this church, and I was gonna go. It was around the time where me and the kids was with me, and so at this time in my relationship with God, because this is further on in my relationship, like I said, God been ministering to me, and God was just teaching me, because at the time I was divorced, and the kids was, staying with me every other week, and I'll share this on my journey to Christ, because I haven't made a video yet, where God ministered to me about how I'm supposed to handle my kids now that they're no longer under my household. But God was just teaching me about choices, like how important it is to make, choices. That's why the title is Choices Build Character. So God was just telling me that I should allow my kids to make more choices on their own. You don't have to be too controlling. Like, allow them to make choices. Like, it was real heavy on me, because I had to. And I go deeper into it on my other video, but it was one of those things where it's because the kids are no longer with me, I need to make sure that they're growing individually. All right. And the way you do it is, they making choices. All right. So on this day, I was supposed to be going to the church, and the kids' hair wasn't done. So I asked their mom to come over there to do their hair before we go to church. Now, wisdom, like I said, I'm, growing, and I know certain things, and I knew that if their mom came over there, that, they possibly was going to want to go back with her. You know how it is. they young, kids be like, oh, I want to, they mama come over there. They be like, oh, I want to go with mommy or whatever. Like, I knew that was going to happen. So I was kind of like frustrated because I was like, man, I wish she would have just did their hair before I got them. But now she got to come over here and do their hair right before we about to go to church. And I just felt it in my spirit that they was about to dang do it. But like I said, God was like, don't force it. Allow them to make that choice. I felt it in my spirit. God was like, don't force it. Allow it. If they do it, allow it. Don't be like, man, nah, you going to church with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it was back in the days, or that's how they see it. You make them kids go to church. But God didn't tell me that. God was like, let them make that choice. So she came over there, did their hair, and did exactly like I thought. It was first my son. My son was like, oh, I want to go with mommy. So he ran and went with her. My youngest, she followed. That's how she is. She see her brother, her big brother going. She want to go. She like, oh, I want to go too. So I said, all right, if that's what y'all want to do. So my oldest, she stayed with me, you know what I mean? She was like, nah, I'm going with you. I'm going with Dad. But my son and my daughter, they left. They ran out and they left. So I was frustrated. I ain't gonna lie, because I was like, man, I thought there was gonna be a moment where, the kids go with me to church and stuff like that. But I was like, it is what it is. Maybe it's just meant for me and my oldest to go. So as we about to walk out the door, the door was wide open. And by that time, they had already, drove off. But her mom called and she was like, hey, Alasia changed her mind and she want to come back, with you. So I'm about to let her out of the car and she gonna run back up there to you. I said, all right. I said, oh, snap, So when she came, she stood right there in front of the door and she just looked at me like the best way to explain it was like somebody, like she was wrestling. Like she was fighting whether or not she should do what she was about to do. And like, remind you, she was 6. Like I don't know, she wasn't talking. She wasn't expressive. Like, I mean, she was talking, but, kids at that age just not that aware in a sense. So she was just standing there looking at me like she was just had this look, just like she was been fighting the whole time. And she just ran up and gave me a hug, And in my spirit, I just felt like God was just telling me, like, man, she was wrestling, She was wrestling, with whether or not she should go or what would be the right thing to do, And she made the right choice to, come back. Like she was following. The flesh was like, go with your brother. Your brother going, so follow him. But her spirit was strong enough saying, hey, go with your dad, to church. And she did. She made that choice. And it was a hard choice for her, And that's the reason why she was just sitting there like she was just tired and like she was wrestling. And she was strong enough to make that choice or whatever. So, and the crazy thing was, when we went to that church, that was one of the sermons that he preached was about choices. Like, in the Bible, God, and this is something that also what, the reason why I do that is that, when I watch God in the Bible, with Israel, he was allowing them to make choices, you know what I mean? Like he was trying to get them to make those choices, the right choice, you know. He wasn't forcing them, you know, he gave them free will. And I felt like that's why, that's my Father in heaven. Like I'm supposed to be his image. So, I wanted to try to do the same thing with my children. Let them have free will, but also try to guide them in the right direction. So it was like, like I said, he preached that sermon and it was just a powerful moment, you know what I mean? Like I said, it was like a confirmation and, I still to this day, try to do that with my children where I allow them to make choices on their own so that, they can learn from that, that builds their spirit, the more they make the right choices, the more they listen to that spirit and then choose that spirit versus the flesh, that right there kind of like helps them out, in the future to be able to listen to that spirit, that good spirit. So it was a powerful moment for me, like I said, and I just wanted to share that. Choices build character, man. Like I said, being a father is a truly blessing. And, I've learned a lot just from, being a father to my children. So I just wanted to share that story for anybody out there, that's becoming a father or is a father now that might relate to this, and, like I said, leave a comment, share your story if you can. And make sure you look at the other videos if you haven't. Or, if you already looked at 1 and 2, and this one is 3, go check out number 4 because I'll be, sharing that story that I said I was going to do after number 1 that's similar to number 1. So make sure you go check that out if you haven't. All right. As always, I love you and talk to you later. All right.